When you're on your way to the T in Boston, what's going through your mind? Are you thinking about where you're going, or if you're going to be on time, or sports ball, or something?
What if I told you there's a secret society pulling the strings behind the scenes, manipulating you as you walk, controlling your eyes?
They are controlling you.
But who are these
Puppet masters.
Well, they're architects and designers, and I guess it's really not mind control, just creative architectural and design choices that help guide you through the transportation system in Boston. I talked to two of the men who crafted the redesign of Boston's transportation system and helped transform it from a hot mess into a system that uses color and other design choices to get you where you need to go, hopefully on time. Boston's transportation evolved quickly in the 1900s, and by the time the Massachusetts Bay Transportation Authority was established in 1964, there were some problems. Enter architecture firm Cambridge 7 Associates, which the MBTA hired to help make the transportation system less chaotic and unnavigable. Peter Chermayeff was excited for the challenge.
I'm an architect. I've reached a point of semi-retirement, but I was practicing architecture for the last 50 or so years. The client wanted to increase ridership, and they also wanted to increase the, you might say, favorable experience that people would have.
His team was actually working on their first job. You might have heard of it, the New England Aquarium, when they were approached by the MBTA and soon got the gig.
We could make a difference. It could affect people's lives, make the system more pleasant for the constant user, the commuter who does it every day, but also make it more inviting and more of a pleasure for the newcomer who arrives in Boston and is trying to use our system. They find their way around more easily. It's a better experience of the city for them.
Tom Geismar was a Cambridge 7 Associates partner on the project. He said the MBTA definitely needed some work.
The stations were really a mess, but they were building new stations. And what were the guidelines for doing that? After the Second World War, the subways were really expanding. It was no longer within Boston. I mean, they really had to reach people outside of the city.
And only if you were you might say a resident, a Bostonian with tons of experience with the system, would you know where you were and where you were going, because the signage was a mess.
Their goal was to make it so anyone who uses Boston's transportation can glide through the system with ease and not even have to think about it.
And we started, interestingly enough, by taking thousands of photographs, making what we called a reconnaissance of the entire system, the user experience. What would you encounter outside and inside? We went through the buildings and through the underground tunnels.
And they went to work. After years of study and experimentation, they came up with some clever strategies to make getting around Boston a bit easier.
And people don't notice them, don't think about them, and there's no reason why they should. But all those details do add up to effectiveness, which is really what you're after.
The color of the lines is more important than you might think. Before we had the colors, we had just locations in the lines' names.
Why did Harvard Ashmont have to be the name if you didn't really identify with those stations so much as with the line itself?
And what really helps travelers is that colors are used in strategic locations on every line, so you have a sense of where you are and where you're going.
Colors apply in the stations, on all the maps, all the graphics, all the places where it would be needed, like the entrances and so on, so that it would be a strong identifier to these lines, to this skeleton of the city.
Red line, blue line, just how did they decide on the colors that you guys see every day?
And I had some white paper and magic markers, and I started doing a kind of diagram. And I started with the Harvard Ashmont line, and I thought, well, since it starts at Harvard, let's make it red. Blue line, that happened because of the North Shore going along the coast and becoming, in fact, very close to the sea. Then I came to the Emerald Necklace, all of the lines going out to the southwest. And I came to the idea of Green Line in reference to the Emerald Necklace. And then the last one, which went from Roxbury in the south to other places in the north, Had no particular reference at all. It was completely arbitrary. I didn't know what else to do, and I just called it the orange line. for no other reason than the orange color made sense.
Peter said that Cambridge 7 designed the MBTA map, which had fewer lines at the time than the MBTA of today, like a spider with 4 stations at the center, with lines spreading out like legs, and a focus on making the system easy to understand.
More of a diagram than a literal map to show the relationship of the lines, where they intersect.
Speaking of being easy to understand, nothing is more clear than that lollipop-style T when you go through the streets of Boston. That T means public transportation. But why call it the T and not have a sign saying MBTA? Well, it comes down to simplicity and alliteration.
The whole lollipop sign for the T was, to have something out on the street that you can see from a block or so away. I really wanted to do something really simple. And it happens that T is so key for so many words. It's track and tunnel, train, transportation. It goes on endlessly. All the T words that relate to this kind of a system.
Side note, and a disclosure, Geismar also developed the NBC logo. Thank you for making that iconic peacock look so good. Orientation was a major component of the MBTA visual redesign strategy. The T and the colors combined to help you visualize the city better.
Where's the station? You're a stranger, you may not know exactly where the station is, but when you see that T, you can read that at half a mile. As you get closer to it, the entrance itself becomes visible, and it might show a red band, but then it has a green band, and you realize, oh, this is both the red line and the green line.
Keeping messaging simple and legible was incredibly important to the MBTA redesign. They want riders to always get the right information in the easiest to see places. You see the MBTA map inside the vehicles, and when you step out, that same information and more is presented. Keen commuters might have noticed that the station names are shown on the top and lower bands of the signage when the train pulls into a station.
The reason was that in the trains, we noticed and found that when you're standing in the train, it's crowded and you can't get a seat, and you're looking out the window, your head height, if you're a tall person, is taller than the window. You can't see that band because it's blocked by the window. You have to crouch down like this to look at it. So we simply said, if we make the band low as well as high, the standees will see that lower band.
And remember how advertising on the T used to be an obstacle because it would get in the way of important information? They had a solution that helps newcomers and offered something for regulars.
We had a solution for that. We said, let's put that across the tracks. We made light boxes so that they'd be well lit, they would look good. The ads would actually become a display of interest to the people standing on the platform, because if you're a commuter, let's say, traveling back and forth every day, and you're standing on the platform, and the advertising keeps changing, that's good. It's good for the advertiser, but it's also good for the rider, because it gives them something to look at.
Photography also plays a role in helping a traveler understand their surroundings. And they took photographs of landmarks above from architectural photographer Len Gittleman and put them onto panels.
The idea of relating an underground place with a recognizable image to what's above is a way of enhancing your sense of the city and making a connection between the subway rider and the world above.
Next time you're at a station in Boston, pay close attention to the lighting around you. Peter said that lighting is used on the edge of the platform to stop shadows when it's crowded, preventing possible missteps. And the rest of the light highlights the most important information. Oh, and they made sure advertising was bright, but not too bright. Even more details are hidden in the design of the MBTA system. The yellow band on the edge, it subtly warns people to stand back. Stairs with gaps between the steps make it so you can see in both directions, or know for sure that there isn't an unsavory character underneath them. With every idea that gets implemented, it leaves dozens of others behind. Tom said that he really wanted doors to stand out more than the doors that made the cut.
I also had an idea which actually never really happened, which was to paint all the doors yellow of all the trains, because the door is what you're looking for, whether it's a bus or a train or whatever.
It has been decades since Cambridge 7, and these designers transformed the MBTA into a much more elegant, thoughtful system for travelers.
It's very special. For one thing, it was done when we were quite young. It's a favorite, and also because it's so visible, and also because it's so simple. We're always trying to get something very clear and very simple, and it's one of the good ones.
And the work of these architects and designers truly lives on, guiding us all to this day, but allowing for creativity to flourish for the builders of tomorrow.
It's not something that's of that moment. It's kind of timeless. They can be refined and adapted over time, but they get better and better, like good wine.
So the next time you're at a T station, look around and appreciate all the little details that help you get from point A to point B. It's like Peter and Tom are whispering at you, guiding you every step of the way. You're going the wrong way.